Shalom, this is Levi Shore. Welcome back to Sweet and Good Torah. Are we going to see something amazing in 2026? Are we going to see the coming of Mashiach? Is it possible we could see America rule the world for 9 months and possibly Iran go on a conquest throughout the Arab nations in the Middle East? Where am I getting this from? So first I want to talk briefly about some current events, and then we're going to go into two Gemaras, and I think we're going to see something really incredible. So one thing, it's going to be a very powerful year for America in 2026. It's going to be the 250th anniversary of America as a nation. I believe the World Cup is coming to America, the biggest sporting event in the year. Don't tell the Americans, it's soccer. Like the Olympics are coming to America. Like, I don't know when this ballroom is going to be finished, the President Trump's building. I'm sure he wants to host like world leaders, celebrities from all over the world. So all kinds of big things are happening. And then Trump's second term, it's been very strange policy wise from the first term. So we saw in his first term, the American First policy seemed to be that he wanted to avoid any new wars. And it seemed like it was limited strikes. So we saw the limited strike against Soleimani, the Iranian general. And Trump, it seemed like he wanted to rule through, peace through strength. And we saw basically the same thing almost at the beginning, but it was strange. The second, Trump administration, it seems like there's a little bit of a different tone. Like he bursts on the world stage, and all of a sudden, like he's renaming the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America. I mean, he wants Greenland. He wants to make Canada the 51st state. It's a little bit of it is trolling, but it's also it's a strange tone. And now it seems like I think I saw a recent news article that he's okayed a military strikes inside Venezuela. And if America were to overthrow Maduro, I mean, America would gain control of like a great amount of the world's oil. And then we'll see that eventually there is this idea in the Gemara that Persia, Iran would fall into the hands of Edom of Rome, and the strength of Western Rome in the modern world is the USA. And it's also interesting, USA, the letters, they also make up Esau's name, Esau, the brother of Yaakov, the brother of Jacob. So there's big things in store for America. And if they were to conquer Venezuela, to overthrow the government there, replace it with like a democratic government, and then potentially, we'll see in the Gemara, if this great war between America and Iran, I mean, America is the lone superpower. They would be unstoppable, and it would be very easy to see how they could take over the world for this 9 month period during their 250th anniversary. All right, so let's jump into the Gemara first, and we're going to see a very interesting conversation. So our first stop is going to be in Avodah Zara, Beis Amud Beis, Avodah Zara 2b. And we're taking a look at this very interesting conversation here. So this talking, I think, after Mashiach comes and there's peace in the world, and the Roman Empire, which in this case would be America, they're coming first to get the reward. So the Holy One, blessed be He, Hashem, He says to them, says, what did you occupy yourself with? You had the great empire Rome, what were you doing? So they say before Him, they say, Master of the universe, we've established many marketplaces. I mean, if you think of like Google, Amazon, like Walmart, like, these great malls, right? The many, many marketplaces, the internet, we built many bathhouses, luxury resorts, spas, Four Seasons hotels, so all this luxury, bathhouses. We have increased much silver and gold. Look at Fort Knox, New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, in Chicago, the, exchange there. So we did all this only for the Jewish people, right? So that they would be free to learn Torah. So the Holy One, blessed be He, says, fools of the world. So he says, everything you did for your own needs. You established marketplaces to bring in ladies of the evening, for physical pleasures for yourselves. You built bathhouses for your own enjoyment, for your own luxury. The silver and gold, it's mine. Like Hashem says, all the silver and gold are mine. Mine is the silver and mine is the gold, said the Lord of hosts. That's from Haggai 2:8. And it says, is there no one among you who can declare, that they've studied the Torah? And it says in Yeshaya, it says in Isaiah, who among them can declare this? It says it in Isaiah 43:9. And this is referring to nothing else but the Torah. Zos is the Torah. As it says, Vizos Torah asher sham Moshe. And this is the Torah that Moses set before the children of Israel. So that's from Deuteronomy 4:4. And then immediately the members of the Roman Empire, they leave disappointed. So this would be the power of America, and they're going to leave. Okay. So the Roman Empire leaves, and then the Persian Empire enters after it. Now, the implication here is that at the end of days, after Mashiach comes, that there's going to be a point where Iran, so America is going to be the most powerful country in the world, and that's not hard to see. I mean, America is the lone superpower, but Persia, Iran, which is interesting, according to this Gemara, is going to be the second leading power in the world. So they're going to be the second strongest nation in the world. We're going to see how possibly they could get to that. Okay, so then the Roman Empire leaves, the U.S. leaves, in comes Iran. Persian Empire enters after it. So what's the reason the Persian Empire comes in second? They're the next important after the Roman Empire, after America. And where do we know this from? From Daniel's vision. And behold, another beast, a second like a bear. This is from Daniel 7:5. So if you're not familiar with the vision, Nebuchadnezzar had a vision of, this was Daniel's vision. He had a vision of these four great beasts. The first beast represented the Babylonian Empire. The second beast was the Persian Empire. The third beast was the Greek Empire. And then the final, this terrifying beast, was the Roman Empire. And Gullus Edom, our Roman exiles, lasted 225 years so far. So Rav Yosef, he teaches, so these are the Persians. And they're compared to a bear. They eat and drink a lot like a bear. They're fleshy like a bear. They grow their hair like a bear. And they never rest like a bear. So the Holy and Blessed He says to them, with what did you occupy yourselves? So they say before him, they say, Master of the universe, we built many bridges. We have conquered many cities. We have fought many wars. And we did all this only for the sake of the Jewish people, so they would engage in Torah. I don't know. It seemed like October the 7th. It seemed like all their proxies attacking Israel was just for the Jews to study Torah. I don't think Hashem's going to buy it. So the Holy One, blessed be He, says to them, everything that you did for your own needs. You established bridges to collect taxes from all who pass over them. You conquered cities. These conquered cities is, I think, something that we may see. So these conquered cities, you use their residents for forced labor, for angarera. Here's his word. Sorry, I'm not going to try to pronounce it right now. Let's see. Now I'm stuck. I'm going to go in and pronounce it. The Angaria. The Angaria is the forced labor of the nations they conquered. You wage wars. He says, you wage wars. He says, well, Hashem says, I wage wars and your success is from me. Hashem is saying, he's an Ish Milchama. Hashem is the man of war. So he's saying, the victors in war are determined by Hashem, which nation wins. So is there no one among you who can declare that they've studied this, Zos, the Torah? And it says, who among them can declare this? It's once again from Isaiah 43:9. And Zos, this, is referring to nothing other than Torah. And it said that this is the Torah that Moshe set before the Jewish people. So immediately now the Persian Empire, they leave before him and disappointed. So then the Gemara asks an amazing question. Well, the Persian Empire sees that everything Rome did was ineffective, so why did they come forward? So they said a very interesting thing. They said the Roman Empire was the one that destroyed the Second Temple, whereas we helped build the Second Temple. So King Koresh, King Cyrus, and then after the son of Esther, Darius, right, they allowed the Jews to help, build the Second Temple, and they gave some resources to help build it. So they were really the builders of the Second Temple, whereas the Romans, Emperor Titus, they were the ones that destroyed the Second Temple. So then the Gemara asks, but the other nations, they see what was said by the first ones, the Roman Persia, and it wasn't effective. So what's the reason they come forward? So they think, well, those empires subjugated the Jewish people, but we didn't subjugate the Jewish people. So what's different about Rome and Persia, which were singled out? And what's different about these other empires that come afterwards, which were not singled out? So it's because that Rome and Persia, that their kingship extends until the coming of Mashiach. Right, very, very interesting. Okay, so let's see. So we're in the Gullus Edom. We're in the Roman exile, so it's obvious that the Roman Empire would be here, but why is Persia still around? Why is Iran still around? I mean, they were conquered by Alexander the Great. They were conquered by the Greek Empire. So what are they still doing around here, And let me see if I can bring this back up. I lost my, there we go. All right, let me move this around here. Sorry for the technical difficulties. And I'm going to bring up this amazing Tosafos in Avodah Zara. Okay, so let me bring this up here. I'm going to take a look at the Tosafos on this page. And this is the question, why is the Persian Empire still around? So we see amazing Tosafos here. And it says, Mashcha Malchu Saihu Ad Ase Mashiach. So these nations, so Rome, which is now, the USA in the West, and Persia, which is Iran, like these empires, they were extended until the coming of Mashiach. So v'chad amrinam, because that we learn, so asida paras shetipol b'yad Romi, and that paras, Persia, Iran, is going to fall into the hands of Rome, which will be the USA. So hainu samuk l'bias Mashiach. So this is going to be very close to the coming of Mashiach. So it says kidda amrinam, Sanhedrin. So it says this in Sanhedrin, which we're going to next. Daf 98b. So we'll be there soon enough. So Asida Malchus Romi, Shetip showed Al Kol Haolam Tisha Kodashim. And then the Roman Empire, which would be America in this case, they're going to spread out over the whole world for 9 months before the coming of Mashiach. Okay, sounding pretty interesting, right? It's really heating up here. All right, so now we're going to go over to Sanhedrin, and we're going to complete our journey here. And we're going to see something very interesting. So I mentioned, so how is Iran going to become the second leading power in the world? So we saw recently, unfortunately after October the 7th, so this was really orchestrated by Iran through their proxies. So Iran has great influence over Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon. They were actually in Syria. I don't know if they still have as much control in Syria. They have a terrorist group, Hezbollah, I think Qasib, which I think it's called, in Iraq. And of course, they have like the Iranian Guard, and they control Iran, and then the Houthis in Yemen. So they're proxies, but in a sense, their proxies were just really embarrassed. So, Hamas, I don't know, Gaza got destroyed, and some of the terrorists from Hamas got destroyed, but it does seem like Hamas is still around, even though they're weakened. And Hezbollah, even though they were weakened, they're still around. The Houthis are still around. But it seems like Iran was really embarrassed. And we saw, the Israelis, it was possibly Mossad with the pagers. I believe that was for Hezbollah. And then we saw that it seemed like Israel had some assets inside Iran, and they took down the air defense system in Iran very quickly. And then Israel bombed a lot, of the Iranian nuclear program, and then America, President Trump, he ordered, the B-2 bombers to finish it off with the bunker buster bombs. And right, it seemed like Iran, had this embarrassing defeat. So it could be that this Gemara is talking about a big backlash that's coming, and probably it's coming, very soon, and it's possibly coming in 2026. So we're going to see, like America, like I was saying, America is going to jump, it's going to be a big year for America, the 250th anniversary, and there's going to be a lot of focus on America. But it could be that Iran makes some big moves. So we see another interesting Gemara here. So it says, at the time of his death, Rebbe Yossi ben Kisma, he says to his students, he says, place my coffin deep in the ground. Now, he was in the yeshivas in Bavel and Babylon, which is modern day Iraq. Okay, so then it says, there's no palm tree in Babylonia, and this is going to be Iraq, to which a horse of the Persians, so this is going to talk about an invading army from Iran, will not be tied when the Persians and the Medes go to conquer other lands. And there is no coffin buried in Eretz Yisrael from which a Median horse will not eat straw. So it seems like also Iran, as we saw on October the 7th, they're setting their sights, and they also want to conquer America. And I think now that they see this Abraham Accords, and they see an economic relationship between America and the Gulf nations, there's talk that Saudi Arabia may join soon, Qatar, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, like all these Gulf nations, Egypt, that and after their defeat, I think they're in a very desperate situation. And I think what this may be talking about is an Iranian invasion and a takeover of the Islamic world, where Iran would become the most powerful of the Islamic nations. And then ultimately they're setting their sights on Israel. So then Rav, he says, Ben David, Moshiach, the son of David, will not come until the evil kingdom, meaning the Roman Empire, will disperse throughout Eretz Yisrael for 9 months. So this is also what we saw in the Tosfos that Rome, or I think this would mean America, will rule the world for 9 months. And what's very unusual is now we see that President Trump has declared a control over Gaza. So this would be the first time that Rome, that Edom has controlled Eretz Yisrael since General Pompey. So we do see America starting to take over Israel, and I think it will be like poised as like America is going to come in and finally bring peace to the land. And Trump is very popular in Israel right now. And if who knows what could happen? There could be a Hamas attack, on American troops while they're over there. There's a new U.S. command center, and that could spark like a much bigger conflict, possibly leading to this takeover of Israel to help, like in a sense, bring peace, between the Arab terrorists and Israel. So it says, therefore, he will give them up until the time when she who is in labor is given birth. Then the remnant of his brothers will return with the children of Israel. This is the prophecy from Micah 5:2. So 9 months, that's the time of the pregnancy. That's the time that this process will result in the appearance of Mashiach. And then it says, Amor Ula. So we're going to leave with this very interesting statement. It says, let Mashiach come, but after my death, so I will not see him. Because he says, I fear the suffering, in this period. It's going to be a very terrifying time. So Rabbah, he says, let Mashiach come, but after my death, because I will not see him. Now, Rav Yosef, he says something very interesting. He says, let Mashiach come, and I will be privileged to sit in the shadow of his donkey's waist. And I've been thinking a lot. It's a very strange statement, right? I've been thinking, like, what does it mean? Like it's a very strange statement. So I think if you think about it, we live in a time, where we have, it's like everything's streaming on the internet, and it's a time of a lot of immorality, and especially the main battle is like with the misuse of physical relations, right? And that's all over the internet, and that's the main battle. So I think what he's saying is that the battle that Mashiach's going to win, and this is the original battle that was in the Garden of Eden. And I don't want to go so deep into it right now, but there's a lot of hidden secrets of what was happening in the Garden of Eden, and eating is like a euphemism for relations, physical relations, and that's really the spiritual flaw that has to be corrected. So I think he's saying that this is going to be so holy, like in this time of great immorality, like Mashiach is going to triumph in this level of like physical control in the face of great physical immorality, overtaking the world. And then that's like the main battle. And that's the times we live in right now. Okay, so this is a lot of the pieces. I don't know. We're gonna have to, wait and see what happens. But there's a lot of other Torah I'm going to bring. And Bezrat Hashem with Rabbi Mordechai Darwish, maybe Motzi Shabbos, we're going to do part 2 of the Mashiach practical survival guidebook. And it's going to be very interesting. We're talking about this amazing Midrash Nelam. So please, leave the comments, like, share, subscribe. Hope to see you guys back again soon on Sweet and Good Torah. All the best.